What's up, everyone? This is Lower. I am going to do a track breakdown of Can You Hear Me from my debut album on Galaxy Records, titled Can You Hear Me, actually, funnily enough. So this is a track I was working on for quite some time, and I had a sample vocal in there previously, and I actually met Sam in Holland at a gig. He was just there with a friend of mine, and we got talking. Turns out he was from Australia, and he was basically touring around the UK and in a bit of Europe as well, just visiting places he hadn't been and things like that. So we got talking. Turns out I was off anyway the next week or a couple of weeks later, and we decided to write a track together, and this is basically what came of that. So we can go through. We can start with the drums, I guess, at the beginning. So this one I wanted to be more of a stepper, so like not so much shuffle, which I guess a lot of my tunes kind of are anyway, but this one I wanted to emphasize it a bit more. So just the drums. So just like really punchy, focus a bit more on the percussion side of things. Some weird little like hits and stuff like that. That's what I really wanted to do. So with the kick, it's quite a crunchy kick, quite a chubby one. I used the drum bus down here, Ableton drum bus, just to reduce the release on it by the looks of it there. And I've just got a bit of EQ, just taking off some of the lows. I don't always do this, but I guess in this sense I thought it was necessary. There's probably quite a lot of low-end information going on there. This is my kick channel here. I've got a kick group as well. In this case I didn't use the second one, but this is like part of my template, so I always have it always comes up the same way. And a kick trigger, which I don't actually, this is a bit obsolete now because I use something else. I used to use this to trigger my sidechain. On the there's a bit more EQ on the kick group itself. I don't think it's doing too much. Yeah, taking out some mud. Yeah, so snare. I wanted like quite a clappy snare. A lot of like, here we go, here's the clap. I've got two different claps there, slightly different, so sort of like a seesaw effect between each one. I believe I might have just pitched them down. Oh no, it's actually just a different clap. Okay, this snare here is an Amen snare. Just use that as a layer. Let's move this down a little bit, there we go. And this one is more of the attack. And then all together. Yeah. And then I've got that running through a bit of EQ, quite a lot of EQ. I've taken off quite a lot of the very tops because it's almost useless. Boosted a few bits there. And as always, Shaperbox is doing a lot of the work here. If you don't know about this, go check out the other videos I've done on this, but it's basically, long and short of it, is it's a very useful plugin for dealing with transients in a very detailed way. And I use it every project now, literally, and you can use it for side chaining as well. It's so good, and it also has loads of other effects and things. So on the low mids here, up until 1K roughly, I've pretty much kept it normal, but then the release of the sound is coming down a little bit more than it would have done. On the tops, the attack of it is a bit slower on the top end, and then it comes down a bit more abruptly after some milliseconds, after a 30-second. There we go. I've also got a noise module on there. Okay, it does add a bit. That's cool. That's my snare. Again, these are sort of redundant. These are just MIDI triggers. Don't use those anymore. So get rid of that. My top end here is basically all my shakers and my percussion and stuff like that. I have it all grouped in one group. On the group I've got just a utility with some gain automation and a filter, which is pretty standard stuff. What have I got here? So that's an Amen. This is for like fills and things. Here we go. That's for later on. Unfortunately, I've already rendered out the pitch shifting side of it. Yeah, so unfortunately you can't really see what I did there. Same with this one as well. I remember spending quite a lot of time on this trying to get it right. So I remember I used a pitch. What was it called? The pitch thingy. Not pitch hack. Shifter. There we go. So I messed around with the shifter quite a lot, and it stretches the audio in a really weird way, and I kind of liked it, like this last bit here. It almost pulls the transients apart, and I just thought it sounds kind of cool. It's not always what you want with drums, but in this situation, it's pretty good, I think. And I added some filtering and I think some tube and things like that. Yeah, so from here on in, I think this is just like, yeah, just some percussion stuff. This is the weird percussion for the whole track. You wouldn't normally hear this kind of stuff in a drum and bass tune, so I like to put these in. Kind of quirky. So if I play that with it, there we go. It's quite fun, I like that. And down here we've just got some more tops. Pretty standard stuff really. Just some nice top information there. Shakers I've chopped up quite a lot. I'm not really going through the processing on this stuff because it's just basically a bit of EQ, maybe some filtering and things like that. It's nothing too crazy. Another shaker, nothing too mad. Like crashes down here I believe. Yep, reverse crash. What's this one here? Yeah, just a bunch of reverses. Oh, there you go, that's something a bit different. Right, so I've just got a bit of EQ to take out some of the lows and highs frequencies there. We've got a reverb on there, and then I've got an auto pan with a saw that's set at 17 Hz, and then I've automated that to sort of give it that slowed down effect. And that is because this is basically like a really long fill at the beginning of a bar, which I like doing. That's with the Amen as well, so if you listen for that. You can mainly just hear it in this gap here, but it's cool, it adds that little bit of interest. Always trying to find the interest. This is just a crash. Right, that is the drums. On the bus for the drums, got a bit of EQ, just shaping it. There's some tube, always just using the tube from Camel Crusher. Got this nice little free plugin that's been around for quite a long time, Lufticus. It's really good for adding like that really sparkly top end. So I use it for a bit of that, bit of 40k on there. And then we've got Drum Parallel, which is a New York style compression, which is basically just wet and dry. Got 27%. Always works quite hard, and then you just mix in a little bit of it. Then I've got Soothe, taking out some of the dodgy frequencies around 4.5k, which is usually, that is, fun fact, 4.5k is the frequency that babies cry at / scream. So as humans we are really sensitive to that area. So when you're making tunes, or obviously sound dependent, you want to watch out for that area because it makes things quite harsh. And then I've got a bit of clipping. Always clip. There we go. You can see it's taking a little bit of the tops off there. Drumming. Right, bass. 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 Yes. So it's quite a big bass on this track. It's like weighty. This is the rendered version. You can hear there's quite a lot of like weird stuff going on, especially in the tops. Luckily, I have a frozen version of it here, so I can unfreeze that, and then I can show you how I made it. So it's basically just a pretty basic MIDI pattern. Nothing special about that, just like repeating the MIDI note every so often, like that. Or I wanted it to re-trigger. So the actual bass sound itself, I'll mute everything and then we can go through it one by one. So this is the actual just Serum on its own. There's really not much going on there, it's just a chunky sound basically with a bit of noise on the top end there. I don't think there's any effects. Oh no, there's a clipper. There we go. Yeah, just a bit of clipping on that. And then what I've done is I've shaped that with quite a lot of EQ. Oh, don't want to do that. Let's add this on one at a time. So you can hear without it, it's like quite muddy. So I've taken a lot of that mud out there and added a bit of the fizz back in on the top end. And then I've done something that I like to do, and it adds a bit of interest on here. So I've got an envelope follower that basically draws a line based on the amplitude of the sound. So if you watch this line here, so that will move up and down based on the pitch, probably because it's how loud it is. And then what I've done is I've mapped, you can take a mapping from this, from all these, and you can map that to an LFO rate here, for example. So the lower that line is on here, the slower the LFO will be here. The higher it is, the faster it will be. And it looks pretty crazy there. But then if you map that to, let's say, an erosion, it gives it some mad bit of movement on the top end, which is kind of cool. It makes, you know, makes it stand out a bit. Right, where are we? Yeah. And then I've probably listened to this and gone, right, okay, there's a lot in the lows, there's quite a lot going on in the top end there. Need to like beef it up again in the middle. So what I've done is I've got a chain here, so I've got a dry one, and this is the wet chain, and on that I've decided to give it a huge bump, 20 dB around 200 Hertz, which would sound like this, which is crazy. And I think the reason I've chose that is probably because the track is in A, so I've just chosen an A, if you see down on the piano roll there, and then I've clipped it to control that resonance. Look how much that's clipping, that's crazy. But it also adds a bit of distortion to that as well, it's cool. And then I've EQ'd that a bit. So with and without, so this is with and without. You can hear it's like kind of just gives it like grit, and there you can still hear that resonance, but I thought it was pretty good still, so I left it in there. And then I've just soothed out again some of the harsher frequencies around 4.5. There are a couple other basses, so I will unfreeze that. This is a fill. And this is exactly the same, well, not exactly, but it's quite a basic bass. which is a wobbly bass anyway, but I've used an envelope follower to follow the amplitude again here, and I've assigned that to erosion again just to emphasize it, and then also to make it even more emphasized I've assigned another one to a gain knob. So if I take that off, it just emphasizes the wobble more. And then I think there you go, it's doing it on the tube as well down here, and then I've just got a bit of filtering and stuff like that. So this is it in the track. This one here is just a stab, basically. Absolutely heavy stab. And that's from my sample pack that I made. Yep, that's just a really basic patch, but I love it. It's really simple. I've added a bit of erosion on there, a bit of hiss, and just EQ'd it a little bit, taking out a lot of the mids. On the actual group for the bass, we've got a bit of EQ, I've got some iZotope ozone exciter there, so I'm doing a lot in the lows with the triode. Is that how you say it? Triode. Got oversampling on. Bit heavier on the CPU, but it's worth it, I think. And then we've got Shaperbox. That is just for the kick, pretty much. So that's the side chaining, and I've only got it on the lows up until wherever that is. I don't know where that is. It doesn't say. This is Shaperbox. But if I enable the drums, you should be able to hear that. Or not. The case maybe. I may have abandoned that, to be honest, because that is actually Shaperbox 2. Shaperbox 2. I think I'm going to look really silly now. I think Shaperbox 3. Okay. I did go and fix this before the pre-master, but I think I'm using Shaperbox 3 now. Hold on. Yeah, I'll do a quick demonstration. So what it would have been doing would have been inputting the kick information from the kick over here. So kick. Look at that latency. Woo! That's why you want to do it at the beginning, with as little effects as possible. So we use audio input. There we go. And we use that. This is the kick drum here, and we'll use that to trigger the fact that we want we'll do this shape for now. Yeah, that's why this is another amazing plugin, because it can do all sorts of different things. But yeah, it appears that I've managed to disconnect that, but it wasn't like that in the final pre-master, so this must be an old version of the project. Anyway, musical elements. Bass. You can go away. And we've got effects. Not sure you want to see those. I'll play them all together so you know what's going on. Just pretty standard stuff. What's going on here? It's got some mad auto pan going on. Just panning around. This bit I decided to chop that up. Let's hear that in the mix. gives like a pumping feeling basically. So, and also it's very different from everything else there, so it sort of adds that extra little bit of interest. Right, it's gone to the musical parts. Right, here we go. A lot of this is rendered, but I do have some remnants. All the black ones are like old MIDI and things. So there's this sound here, which was made in Shaperbox, I believe, with a... Yep, here we go. So this is the... So originally it would have been just this sound from Serum, which is just a square wave, basically. There we go. Just a square wave. And then I've added vibrato. Here we go. Some EQ. And then Shaperbox is basically doing most of the work here. It's going through their time, which basically pitches it at points. So if that line is going straight down there, you would hear like the normal sound, but because it's going up and down and all over the place, it sort of pitches the sound up and down. And that's actually affecting the highs, the mids and the lows differently as well, so it's pretty crazy. Then you've got like a filter and a panner. Pretty weird. And then a regular filter there. But I really like that sound, I think it's kind of cool. So I left it there. I think all this stuff here is to back up that original one. This one as well. This is all made in a similar way, but I haven't got the original MIDI. So if we listen to those three, then we've got some guitar down here. This is actually just a sample, I believe, that was on Splice. E to G, E to G. I did chop it up. I think it's the original one though. What's this here? Bit of pad. This is the original MIDI here in black, but I haven't got any of the plugins on there unfortunately. But it would have been Serum because it says Serum there. Then we've got, what we've got here, BBC Symphony Orchestra, so this is some strings. And it sounds like it's got quite a lot of distortion on it. Gives it a bit of grit. Oh yeah, I remember now. So it sort of morphs if you listen to it. Yeah, so it's just like a rhythmic thing. Then we've got the main lead. So these are all the individual parts of the main lead, but I've changed it quite a lot on the way, I believe. This is the one that you'll most likely recognise if you know the track already. Oh my goodness, come on. Obviously sounding very dry right now. So this is actually made in Keyscapes. From memory, I think it's like one of the retro old little key basses or something, like played quite high up. And I've layered it with some other little weird sounds. Like that. And then there's this third one down here, just emphasizing one note every now and again. So that's the raw sound, and obviously that's quite dry and weird, but then I've like affected it and put it on its own channel, and I did quite a few passes of just like messing around with it, trying to get it sounding good, and this is what I had in the end. It's obviously got quite a lot of like reverb and things on it. Also, I got this. If any of you follow Andrew Huang on YouTube, like this is actually a plugin that he made alongside Baby Audio, and it's actually really cool. So what it is it is like a set of all different modules, and you can put whatever you like in there really: flanges, spread, filters, OTT, distortion, utility, and there's like a whole bunch of other ones. And the idea is it's like a transition effect, so all of these things are mapped to one knob, and then you just automate this one knob for like effects, swells, and like transitions into other parts. And it's just like a very easy way of doing it, but it saves you a lot of just setting up all these plugins separately and doing it. But you can also use it as like a nice little layer. I found some of the sounds you just mix it in, and this is what I did with this lead here. And I use the automation to sort of swell and dip and stuff between it. Yeah, it's a pretty cool plugin. So that where it dips down there, that's basically the drop, the main drop. So I wanted it to be a bit drier on the actual drop. So it gets wetter before it and then drops down. This is another sound. Just another backing for that, for all these ones up the top here. And then we've got some reverses and things like that, nothing too crazy. I believe that's that's all of those melodies. We'll get onto the vocals. Oop. So there's quite a lot going on effects wise on these vocals. Let's start with this bit actually. So all the way down here, this is actually from the demo vocal that we recorded when he was here, and for the parts in the green up here, like he took those and he did those in Australia again when he went home after his little travelling session. So this was done in my flat, and the reason it sounds a bit like all weird is because it's got where's it, Soothe, and it's using the main lead to like sort of sidechain the vocal against this, so it's not too busy. Okay, I'm using a compressor from that. There's a shifter, and that is basically pitching down at the end of the bar. It's quite subtle, but you know, all these subtle things, they add up. Yeah, a couple of filters, shaper box on the snare, so that's side chaining against the snare just to give, because this takes up quite a lot of room, so I wanted the snare still to be able to come through. There's some more EQ side chaining. I think basically this is like a really quick one. It's super quick, so like a 30-second or something like that. And usually the release on Pro Q3 is a bit slower, so that'll deal with the tail a bit better of the sound. It's maybe not 100% necessary, but I think I wanted it to pump a bit more from memory on this. There are different layers to this as well, so yeah, without the soothe it sounds like this, but because it's using sounds so weird. So basically all you're hearing is that effects tail. Basically that's all that's left. This is just like delay. These two here are just chopped up versions, I think, and left and right. Yeah, so it sort of goes between left and right. Just to keep that sort of top excitement level there. And then this one, I believe it might be low one. Yeah. Right, lead. Okay. This is the verse. Right, so on the main lead we've got there's still a little bit of tuning going on. He didn't need a lot of tuning, it's just like one little line, I think it was, yeah.
We're getting closer now.
And it's over here somewhere. It's literally at the end.
As clearly as you.
One of these somewhere. Anyway, doesn't matter. This is a basic tuning thing. So you can, what you can do is you can set like the root note, or you can set it to chromatic, which is what it's done there. And then as you can see like a piano roll down the side, and you can, this orange line is basically the pitch of his vocal. The white bit is where it's estimated to be like the average pitch. It's a good like indicator of where it thinks it should be, but a lot of the time you need to like just tweak this up and down. I'm gonna undo that. Right, so I've got that, but that's on the other side of the track. There's some EQ, just taking out some of the lows and boosting a little bit of the highs there, and then I've got running through another tuner somewhere later on.
We're getting closer now.
So this
To the inside.
this audio here would have been manipulated and processed a little bit already, and then I've rendered it, and then I think the reason I've added these two is because later down the line I've gone, oh actually that maybe that note there needs a little bit of tweaking, and then tweaked it. Yeah, so this line here is basically reversed audio. And it sounds weird again because there was a soothe on there, which is working with the lead.
We're getting closer now to the inside.
There's a little backing thing here.
To the inside.
That's got like kind of like a radio effect on it. So I've taken the highs and the very lows off. These are backings, left and right, like doubles. It's important to use different vocal takes if you have them, because otherwise you get some weird like phasing issues. These here are harmonies or ad-libs. Also panned left and right a little bit. And this is obviously the main part, so it's the Can You Hear Me? Which is like the main bit. So other than that, I think there's a little verse at the end. I think maybe this bit's different. Yeah, the only other different vocal is here. And it's got exactly the same kind of stuff, just I think slightly less of the reversing. I did repeat the very first word just to bring it in and filtered it down like that, just because I think basically it was coming in too abruptly, and I tried to do like some reverse like work like that, but it didn't really work so well. But this kind of worked quite nicely, so I left that in there. It's all about trial and error, that's what I find. And then we've got a big swell that comes at the end there. Nice delay. And that is Can You Hear Me, the title track of my debut album on Galaxy Records. I hope I didn't ramble too much, and I hope you guys got something out of it. all the best. If you haven't heard the album, go check it out. It's out now. Peace and love.